A very warm good morning to everybody. I am Dr. Meenakshi Thakur, Associate Professor in Biyani Group of Colleges, and today I am going to discuss a very popular poem by Rabindra Nath Tagore, which is called as Where the Mind is Without Fear. Originally this poem is actually a prayer, and the name of that poem was Pratna, which literally means prayer, and that was involved and included in a Nevedhya volume of Rabindra Nath Tagore's collection. Now in this poem, basically Tagore is somehow presenting a prayer to the Almighty God, who himself has created this world, who has given the people the insight to think good and bad. But still, besides that fact, people are not aware enough about their roles, about their duties, about their own self. So in this poem, basically the poet has addressed the Almighty, the God, and presented a prayer for his own country people. Now before starting the poem, a very interesting analysis is there. Let's have that analysis in the beginning. If we have a look, we have in this poem, the poet is somehow has taken different kind of poetical devices. For example, if we have a look of this line, where tireless striving stretches its arm towards perfection. Striving stretches its arm. Tireless striving stretching its arms. So somehow it is representing personification, right? And here in this line, the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert, sand of dead habits. So here we can see there is something which we call as metaphor. And also from this line, dreary desert, sand of dead habits. So somehow there is also an element of alliteration in the poem. So this is the basic thing which has been used by the poet, the basic techniques. He has used personification, he has used the metaphor, he used the alliteration, and let's recite the poem first and then see more detailed analysis of the poem. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arm towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert, sand of dead habits, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into the heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. So after reciting the poem, we just initially got to know the poet has written this poem in a free verse. It's in a free verse form, and one more thing is there is no such kind of an proper rhyming scheme or meter used by the poet. So basically it's a very simple, very lucid poem which is being depicted by the poet. It's a very basic idea basically which has been depicted by the poet in a very precise and in a very simple language, in a very simple way, so that a common man can also understand what is the essence of the poem. Now coming to the first two lines, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free. So basically in the first two lines, in the very first line, if we say where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, here the poet is somehow pointing towards a place where actually the mind is without fear. That means our mind, it is not occupied by any sort of fear, in any sort of tension, any sort of stress. Our mind is completely free. We are not bound by any sort of stress and we are not scared of anything. and the head is held high. Now the head is held high. What does it mean? It means such a place where we actually value our honor. We really respect ourselves. A place where our head is held with high held with pride, with this feeling that we are actually something. That means a place where we understand ourselves, where we actually feel that we are being respected by our own self only. Where knowledge is free. Now here in these two lines, if we have a glimpse of these two lines in our mind, we think about it, we get to know he's talking about such a period of time where basically India was under the rule of British government, and at that time period basically what was happening, the things were different. The people, they were obligated towards the English people, they had to follow the rules and regulations made by those English people, and they were not allowed to do whatever they want. Basically they were having a dominance, a kind of an overrule by the British government. So at that time the mind was completely with fear, because you are not supposed to do anything whichever you want. Basically you were supposed to follow the instructions and rule given by the British people, by the English people who actually ruled us at that time. And also the head was not held high, because if you are following someone else's words and rules, you can't keep your head high. Why? Because you are following, and obviously you are bowing your head down in front of that person, in front of that rule. So that means at that period of time the mind was full of fear, the head was bowed down, and the knowledge is, here the poet is expecting a place where knowledge is free, but at that time the knowledge was not free, it was not accessible for all, it was basically restricted to specific people and specific classes. As we very well know, at that time in British rule, Indians were not supposed to learn, they were not supposed to read and write, but finally they also realized that they need Indians in their offices as clerks and other helping hands. So they initiated, they means the English people, the British government, it initiated some projects where people can study and learn. But that was also in the accessibility of very few people from very few families actually who were having this condition that they can afford education. But at that time not everybody was in that scenario that they can afford education and they can be a part of this learning process. So that's why the poet is saying the knowledge is free. That means it is not being charged in that way. It is actually accessible to all other people. Everybody can have education, everybody can learn, no matter to which community, to which caste, to which social status they belong, and they don't have to pay for this kind of a learning. So basically giving an indirect view of the problem which was at that time generally in the society because of the rule by the British government, the poet is imagining a place where all those sorts of atrocities, all those sorts of pains a common man that is feeling should be removed. So here what he is saying, he expects a place, he prays and imagines for a place where the mind of the people is without the fear and their head is held high with pride. That means they are happy, they are contented, and they actually respect their self, being respected by others. So he wants such a place, and also he wants a place where knowledge is free. That means every single person of his country should be having this opportunity, should be having the accessibility of knowledge attainment, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Now what he says here, where the world has not been broken, that means the world has not been divided or bifurcated because of the narrow boundaries which people have made in their own minds by the fragments of narrow domestic walls. That means such superstitions, such problems which has already made man in a very compact and in a very disgusting state, where they have already established their mind with the thought that certain superstitions are there, they have to be followed, certain thoughts are there, they restrict humans growth, they restrict humans' thought and ideology. So basically what here is happening, what he wants this place where the people of all over the globe, people from all over the globe, they are sharing their knowledge, they are sharing their life experiences with each other. We are not bounding them with certain walls. That means we are not dividing them in terms of countries or nations. So basically such domestic walls, he doesn't want any boundary all over the globe, so that each and every member of this universe has an equal sharing as a family. Where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arm towards perfection. Now here what he says, where words come out from the depth of truth. That means we are not following just what the people are saying. We are following things by a deep understanding, by a real concept, a real truth is there. So basically he is also targeting those facets of our society where people by myths, by superstitions actually do believing things what the other are stating in front of them, but they are not putting their own effort, their own intellect in understanding why things are happening and how things are happening. So here he is saying where words come out from the depth of truth. That means I am imagining a place, I want such a place in our society or in this world, and he is praying to the God for that. I want such a place in this world where the truth, the facts are being displayed. That means the words or the notions which are coming, they are coming from logical reasoning, they are coming from the basic truth. That means there should be no space, there should be no way for any lie, there should be complete truth and a complete sharing between all the members of this beautiful planet, that is Earth. Where tireless striving stretches its arm towards perfection. Now here if we give a single focus on this line, where tireless striving stretches. So basically tireless striving, that means putting a lot of effort, tireless striving, toiling or putting lot of effort, it stretches its arms towards perfection. So here somehow the poet has personified the human stretching of arms with the stretching of the tireless striving. So this is basically the form which he has used in this line, that is the personification. Here he has compared the stretch that human made with their arms, they stretch their arms when they are tired, and here also the continuous toiling, the continuous effort which has been put, that continuous effort is stretching its complete arm so that it can attain the perfection. That means he needs such a place where people are actually putting their wholehearted effort to achieve the perfection. They are not just doing things for the sake of doing it. The perfection is their ideal. So that's why he's saying where the tireless striving stretches its arm towards perfection. Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits. Now see, the clear stream of reason, here he has again put a kind of a metaphor, clear stream of reason. Reason, just like the water, it's very clear, it's very pure in form. The reason which humans have, it has to be very clear, it has to be without any kind of an impurity, it has to be totally pure. So your reason should be perfect, it should be clear, it has to be putting all the facts and the facets of a situation in front. So basically he has used the metaphor clear stream of reason. That means your reason has to be totally pure, has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits. Now this dreary desert, dreary we know it is somehow related to or it is concerned with something dull. Dreary desert, sand of dead habits. Now if we focus these dead habits, they represent our old traditions, our old customs. So basically here the poet, he tries to find out or figure out such a place where because of the old customs, old traditions, our reason, our power of reasoning has not deteriorated, and he wants such a place where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way. That means your reason is intact, your reason is at perfection, and it is not being influenced by any sort of dreary desert stand of dead habits. That means it is not influenced by any sort of old custom and tradition which we or our ancestors had followed from a very long time, but we actually believe things on the basis of reason, on the basis of logic. So basically the poet is looking for a place which is free from all those foundations, where basically the man is very much open, his mind is totally open for new things, and he is very flexible, and he is very much clear with this thought that whatever he learns or whatever he understands, he knows how it is happening, why it is happening, and when it is happening. So everything is clear with that person. So he wants such a place in this planet where the people, they follow their reason for making any sort of belief, right? So basically he's saying that the old thoughts, the old mythology is not hampering the reasoning ability of a man. So he's looking for that kind of a place. Then where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action. Now in this line he is saying such a place where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action. That means such a place where mind is being clearly focused and being prompted to follow such a thought and action pattern where the thought it has been provoked by reason, and that thought is valid. Why? Because it is putting all the things in action in reality. Into the heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. Now here in the last line, the final line, he is basically praying to Almighty, the creator of the world, and stating that please lead my country people to that place, to such a place where their mind is free from all fears, where they are prompted towards thoughts, such thoughts which leads to action, where their reasoning is not somehow influenced by the old traditional beliefs or myths or traditions, and he believes such a place where all such things are available, or all the negative aspects of society are omitted. Such a place will be called the heaven, into the heaven of freedom. So basically poet called that place, named that place in the final line as the heaven of freedom, where my father, that means my creator, let my country awake. That means give my countrymen such an awareness, such a feeling that they will be at such a place which will be called as a heaven of freedom, when their mind will be without fear, where their reasoning is put in action, their words and action are in sync. So basically in this poem, Rabindra Nath Tagore, as the name, its actual name Pratna is very much accurate. He has prayed to the God, to the Almighty, for such a place where all the foundations of bad influences, bad thoughts, and somehow the dominance and rule of others have been neglected, have been avoided, and he expects his people to follow their reasoning ability, their logical thinking, and they believe in their own self. So this is all about the poem Where the Mind is Without Fear by Rabindra Nath Tagore, and I'm sure, I hope that it has been clear to you. Thank you and have a nice day.